Good evening, everyone. This is Blue Seahorse again. My name is Mike Siver, along with my guest, Robbie Winchester. And we're going to have a topic out of my book this week called Be Better Than Yesterday. And it's from the book that I've written about what role did I play. And it's a book of 52 different life skills for discussion that we have groups that run off it, church groups, and some other groups that we run talk about this on a daily basis. And this one is a way that we look at ourselves and how do we compare ourselves, or how do we improve on a daily life and what we do. And I'm going to start out by reading the first page, and it's a short section. You should not work on being better than anyone else. You should work on being better than you were yesterday. Don't just settle for being okay at life. Every day should be a learning and growing experience, and you should be a positive teacher and role model. And Robbie and I have been discussing about this, and coming from different walks of life, that he's got some questions, and so we're going to try and come up with some simple answers or some simple direction for people to look at how to achieve, rather than a comparison. John's got a new car, I want a new car. Well, you have to look at what you're entitled to have. What are you able to have? He might have a different job than you, and he can have a new car, and you can't.
Right.
But your car might come the next day or the day after. So, I'm waiting for a question, Robbie.
Okay. All right. Don't compare yourself to others, but people do all the time, Mike, even subconsciously. What is that doing to that person when they're doing that to themselves? When they're comparing themselves to, professional athletes, supermodels,
Well, it depends at the age that starts to happen. If it's a young person in high school or a young girl growing up that sees that person as their goal in life, they don't, at that age, they're not looking at, am I going to have security? Am I going to have money in the bank? Am I going to put away enough money while I work throughout the years to have Social Security when I come in? Am I going to be satisfied with what I have? They're looking at the outside appearance of that person.
Right.
They're looking at hair, makeup if it's a girl,
Material.
clothes, material objects.
Right.
So they really haven't got to the point of understanding that that's a goal that person can get, but you may not be that person. We're all different.
Right.
I mean, I'm 5'6", you're 6 foot, whatever. There's no way in the world I'm going to be like you physically.
Right.
It's just not going to happen. So I have to look at myself. Now I can do that as I get older. I realize, and I think I'm probably not a whole lot different than a lot of young kids today when I was their age. The tall kids play basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They get all the excitement. They get all the attention. The short kids can't play basketball. So what do they do to get that recognition that the tall kids have got? What do they do with the smart kids in school? There's some people that math and English and schoolwork comes almost natural to them.
Or they enjoy it.
And they enjoy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
There are some kids that just getting through the day is a struggle. And they might have distractions from something else. Everybody's different. So by having somebody trying to compare themselves at a young age to somebody who they perceive as better than them can be really stressful too. It can be you can get despondent, you can become depressed, in which case then the work you're doing would even suffer more.
Okay, Mike, since we're talking about children right now, we might as well stay on that subject. So how can parents teach their children to do better than they did yesterday, and also to try guide them to not compare themselves to others.
A lot of that's by example.
Hmm.
And you know, being a parent is a lot of work. It's hard work.
Right.
It's just not making sure they got clothes on their back and food on the table. Every day is a different day, and as they grow, and if you have more than one child, your children are completely different, and you don't want to make them the same. You want to allow their individuality to grow and encourage that and cultivate that. And you want to make sure that they understand that one is not going to be like the other. And if you have a boy and a girl, well, that's going to be pretty obvious. But if you have two boys or two girls, they're going to be so totally different. And you have to support that difference. And if you do that correctly, and you follow through with it on a daily basis, it doesn't end until they leave the house.
But you still have to work to do your best at creating that balance in their life.
Well, they have to understand that the parents need to be there when the children come home
Right.
and they're from school, and they say,
Which that's hard for a lot of parents these days.
well, it is because of working parents and the economy the way it is. I understand that completely, but still, there has to have time at some point during the day when the parents need to sit down with the kids and listen to the kids.
Like you used to tell me, sit down and have dinner together.
Yeah.
You know, a simple thing like that, that's how you started.
And that's, I actually think that's coming back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
From what I hear from the parents I work with and the families I work with, they are actually starting to do that, and it was gone for so many years. I mean, TV trays and TV dinners,
Yep.
that was it. Everybody sits on the couch and they watch Queen for a Day, whatever show. I mean,
Right.
I'm showing my age right now, but that's gone. But
I was about to say, I have no idea what that is.
they watch Jeopardy
Right.
and all that stuff now in front of the TV. Whereas if you turn the TV off,
Honestly, though, nowadays it's more like Family Guy or American Dad, which for children, that's more of an adult cartoon, but yet the adults like it, especially adults my age, you know,
right?
younger parents. And then sometimes they slide and let the kid watch that, which that's not always right, but parents aren't perfect. Nobody is.
It's like you said before, though. If you sit down with your family once a week, hopefully every day, but a lot of times that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Once a week with a dinner with the family, sit down. The children get used to that, and in the beginning, it's a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had parents come back and say, you know what, this is tough.
You might have a couple silent dinners.
Well, there's
before.
some very silent dinners
Yeah.
for a while. Turn off the TV, maybe put a radio on or a record or a CD or whatever you're going to put on, and just listen to some background music. But talk about your day.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not daily, then it's weekly. Talk about your week. Well, on Monday this happened to me. On Tuesday this happened to me. And involve the children in the conversation all the time.
And that also allows the parents to communicate as well.
Yep.
You know.
But what I found, because I've been doing this kind of work for a long time,
Mm-hmm.
is when the children grow up, that's a routine in their life that they found was a positive experience.
It becomes a value to them.
It becomes very much a value. I like that. It's very good. They become a value to them, and they will do that with their children.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've started a positive exercise that happens within the family every week. And they end up looking forward to it. And the children start to learn how to express themselves, on how to talk, how to wait your turn to talk,
Mm-hmm.
how to let somebody finish the conversation before they butt in. And I'm bad at that, because I'm thinking of responses to people while they're talking, and I teach that if you're doing that, then you're not listening.
Mm-hmm.
And I work very hard on not doing that, but I still do it. I mean, we all do, because we want to be prepared. We want to come back with an answer.
I've got a lot better with not butting in too. I used to do that every single day that me and you spoke.
Yeah. And we do that. But in answer to your question, it's really an effort to do it. It becomes a pleasure after a while, and people look forward to it. Mom and dad plan their day. You know, they pick a day that they can do this. Maybe it's Sunday dinner or Friday night dinner. But when the kids grow up, there's usually activities on Friday night at school, or Saturday sometimes there's activities at school. So you want to make it on a night that people can actually enjoy and relax and not be pressured to do something.
And it doesn't have to be dinner, because every culture, like you said at the beginning, people come from different backgrounds. Doesn't have to necessarily be dinner, right? I mean, they can find something that they can do as a family to communicate.
And I say dinner because it's a convenient
Right.
group setting.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, communication can be done in a group. And it's also convenient because everybody's facing each other.
Right, but if you sit down and play Monopoly, everyone's facing each other, and you
Yep.
gotta wait your turn and stuff. I mean, so.
They're all teaching.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, for the people out there watching, you know, they might be sitting at home and saying, well, yeah, this is all easy to talk about doing. If they want help, and if they want to learn how to do these things with their children, if they want to learn how to quit doing the things that causes their problems from yesterday, you know, so they don't do it tomorrow, how would they go about doing that, Mike?
Well, there's a lot of organizations that work with families, and a lot of them are free. And they have meetings, sometimes monthly, sometimes weekly, on life skills for families,
Right.
groups for families, family dynamics, how to communicate, how not to communicate, how to listen, how to respect, how to set boundaries that are achievable. So many times parents will set boundaries for their children that the children can't reach.
Mm-hmm.
And they use, I mean, their intention's honorable. Their intention's good because they want the children to grow. But they set these boundaries so high that they maybe are too high for the child to reach, or the children to reach as a group. So there are organizations, there's church groups, there's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, there's all these different organizations that teach family dynamics if the families realize they have an issue they have to go to. There's community centers, and there's health organizations, there's the county health centers.
Mm-hmm.
They will, if you go in there with a request, I mean, maybe it's a request they haven't heard before, and maybe it's a need that they haven't addressed that they need to start addressing. I know in Blue Seahorse, where we do that, we get asked every now and then to do a family sit down, a family group. How does mom and dad communicate with son who's maybe 16? Or how does dad communicate with a daughter who's right now going through puberty?
Or how do they communicate with each other?
And how do they communicate with each other?
Mm-hmm.
There are so many dynamics that happen in a family. If you can visualize that, you know, from a baby growing up with a mom and dad, it's a struggle sometimes to realize your life has changed. And I work with families, and I say, once your child is born, your life is no longer your own. It now belongs to the child, because that's going to be your leaving behind is your, I'm looking for the word, I can't find the word right now, but your hierarchy that's behind you when you leave this earth. Your children are left.
That's what they're going to remember about.
That's what, and they have to realize how to act like that. So it's a hard question,
Mm-hmm.
because you have to find the groups, and some communities have more than others.
And you might not like the first 2 or 3 groups you go to.
No.
But you got to keep trying until you find one that you click with.
Yeah, there was years ago I was the youth and teen coordinator for the city of Orlando, Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Well, at that time, and I'm not sure what they have today, the city owned 13 community centers. You could go anywhere and find a community center that would meet your needs.
And something to do.
And something to do.
Right.
all kinds of, and each community center was in a neighborhood that the needs of that neighborhood were met in that community center. And they had the groups that you need to go to if you wanted to have it. They had sporting activities. They had training activities, training camps. All that was done for parents and children at a very low or no cost at all.
So that you just explained very well on how to get help. Now, but why do people continue doing what they did yesterday when it didn't work out too well for them? Why do people do that?
Upbringing, environmental upbringing, families that aren't maybe as functional as they need to be, because parents understand, adults understand, or should understand, if what I'm doing today is not working, I need to change it. Otherwise, I'm going to repeat the same pattern every day. I'm going to have the same frustrations, the same anger, the same emotions every day, and I don't like them. So you only repeat and do things that were successful. If you're good at one thing, you can improve on that, like the story suggests. Be better than you were yesterday. But don't be worse than you were yesterday. So if what you're doing is not working, you need to change it. And if you don't realize that, if you don't understand that, and you're stuck in that cycle, then that comes from, my belief is, that comes from childhood upbringing.
And I also remember you telling me this is a couple years ago. Don't overwhelm yourself. Don't set yourself up for failure. Don't think you're going to change overnight. Start taking baby steps. If you have to, write it down, right?
And this is where, if you can get that kind of advice or support as an adult, and sometimes, I'm a counselor, and I know I can help people, and I have. But counseling is a quick way out. It's an easy suggestion. Well, everybody needs counseling. Go to counseling.
Or medication nowadays.
Well, medication.
They got a medication for everything.
I'm afraid I'm not a big believer in medication.
Right.
But I have had the education to understand that sometimes the body and the brain don't produce the right amount of medication or things that you need to be complete. Chemical imbalance. And that's a body's makeup. And that sometimes has to be corrected.
And that has to do with people are not perfect. So.
You're right. We all have different needs.
Different flaws.
Yeah.
Now, when you say just be your own person, can you expand on that at all? Like a kid, wants to grow up and be an NBA star or something like that. And so they might idolize the kid in their class that's the best basketball player. They might compare themselves to that kid, So what would you recommend for the parents to do to try helping their kid be happy with himself or herself?
Look at the child, look at their abilities and their capabilities, and work on those. And while you were talking, it reminded me of a story that I forget who the author was. I wish I knew because he deserves a lot of credit. But it's about a young boy who thought in his mind he was the best baseball hitter in the world. I think I've told you this one before.
It sounds familiar.
He was the best hitter in the world. He took his baseball and his bat, went out into the field next to his house, threw the ball up in the air, and swung at it to drive it over the fence and out of the yard, and missed it. So he threw it up again a second time, swung at it and missed it. Looked at what he was doing, looked around. He's going to hit that ball over that fence. Threw the ball up in the air again, came down, swung, a lot of energy, missed the ball again. So he struck himself out. Picked the ball up and looking down, heading back home. Then he perked up and realized, I'm not the best batter in the world, but I'm the best pitcher in the world.
Right.
So he picks, that's a huge story. There's so much in that.
So in that, you're trying to say, um, look at your kid, look at your child, and find out what they can be the best at, or what they can succeed in.
And the biggest thing, we keep coming back to it all the time, is a role model.
Mm-hmm.
If you're the father and you're being an appropriate role model, learning to fail and accept it with grace for whatever reason happens, as your children get older, they're going to watch you do that. They're going to know that failure is just a step forward because you've learned how not to do something. Well, that didn't work for me. Now it could be from building a swing set to trying to build a car or whatever you do. When you're not successful in it, do you start throwing ball-peen hammers around the garage, smashing windows, punching stuff, or do you sit down and reflect and say, what did I do wrong?
And just do your best.
Like my book, what role did I play
Right.
in this working or not working? What was my role in this? If you can address that with some dignity and some maturity, then that's going to set an example for the people watching you. Kids watch and see everything. They miss nothing. So we have to pay attention to what's going on and how we role model our children. And that goes for women as well. And in my house, when I grew up with a single mom, and I had 4 sisters and myself. And by the time I was 10 or 11 years old, I knew how to cook, wash clothes, do all the stuff my sisters had to do. They had to go out and take their turn shoveling snow and chopping wood. And my mom said, you know, you're going to learn to do everything.
Were you the youngest?
I was the oldest.
Okay.
So my sisters had to go, well, that's Mike's job. No, it's your job today. You go chop wood, and you girls bring it back in, and you load the furnace, and you build the fire.
So your mom was pretty good at letting
Everybody had,
walk in each other's shoes.
and everybody had to feel what it was like to do everybody's job. And we're still close to this day. We're still rounded out. And after my youngest sister, there came 2 more brothers, and they're the same. They can do everything that their sisters can do, and their wives can do. It worked for us, and we were grateful for that. So, again, the role model, listening to what your children are saying, answering them appropriately, demonstrating failure is not bad. It's a learning experience.
Do you have any advice for adults that are out there watching right now that might think that they're failing and on the edge of giving up, whether it's a domestic violence situation or whether it's they're in recovery and they relapse?
That's tough because when people get to that stage where they become lost, and I was there, I'm recovering, and I have no problem acknowledging that.
I am too.
It took me a long time. And in recovery, as you know, we hit bottom, and everybody's bottom is different. Some's are pretty deep. Mine was pretty deep.
Yeah.
But at some point, most of us, and sorry to say not all of us, most of us realize that I'm so tired of being tired. Looking over my shoulder all the time, trying to manipulate the situation so I can have my drink, or have my joint, or have my whatever I'm going to have. How to give the pretense of being normal when you're not. When you're at work all day, dying to get off work so you can have that, whatever it is you have.
Just trying to function.
Just trying to function. And that's tiring. And at some point, we realize that. Now, some of us have to get locked up. I did a couple of times.
Me too.
I'm not proud of it, but it happened. It's a reality of mine.
Learning experience.
So in order to demonstrate that sometimes it's hard to, a lot of people recognize they have issues, whether it be domestic violence or substance abuse or anger management or whatever. But a lot of them in denial for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a saying out about, that I used to use too, is I was an alcoholic, but I was a functioning alcoholic. I mean, I never got fired from a job for drinking. Never. So I thought I was okay. Until somebody told me in my recovery period, if you were functioning as an alcoholic, how good would you be if you weren't?
Right.
I never
Very
thought of it.
successful.
Never thought of that one, because I have no idea where I would have been, because I never gave it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
For an adult to start to realize that there's an issue, sometimes it takes an external force. Sometimes you got to get arrested. Sometimes you got to lose your job. Sometimes if you have a good friend, maybe a friend's got to tell you.
Intervention.
Or intervention. It's hard to do an intervention on adults.
Right.
Unless adults agree to it. Children can have interventions forced on them,
Mm-hmm.
but it's hard to have it with adults. That's really a tough question to answer, because everybody, like you said in the beginning, everybody's so different, and those are personal issues. I drank, and I'm not speaking for anyone else, because I've felt sorry for myself. Things were missing in my life. Mine was blamed my dad for leaving because I never grew up with a father. So I didn't have the male role model in my life that all my friends had. You see it on TV. Oh, everybody's dad comes to the baseball game but yours.
Yeah.
Well, that was true. And how to function as an adult male, you learn from your dad. Well, I had no male role model. My mother did the very best she could, but she was a mother, not a dad. And there were certain things that she didn't do. So I had my excuses ready-made. I had enough excuses to last me for years to keep me drinking. And if I couldn't find a good one, I'd make one up. For whatever.
So that's advice for the person suffering, the person that has the actual problem. What about the wife or the husband or the kids that have to live with that person? Do you have any advice for them? The I guess you would say the victims of the situation, the people that have to suffer because they love that person.
Well, that's I must admit is where they have to get external support. They have to get help, because if they recognize that there's an issue and they have to deal with it, there is help out there. There's groups for children, there's groups, Al-Anon for women, that are spouses or significant others of alcoholics. There's AA for men and women, but there's specific groups on how to deal with a partner of an alcoholic or the partner of a drug addict or the partner of something else. And I'm afraid that's what it takes, because you don't know what you don't know, is the old saying about, if you're a spouse and your husband or wife becomes an alcoholic or whatever, that's not in your training as a child on how to deal with that.
But if the situation is severe enough, you would recommend, obviously, that the people in the household just get out, correct?
Well, that's a good choice, and I'm sorry we ran out of time right now. Maybe we can finish this up next week.
Right.
And we can repeat this class, because this is the big subject we're getting into.
It is a very big
So let's look at doing this again next week and finish it up, okay?
Okay.
I'm sorry we have to finish right now. This is Mike Cyber and Robbie saying good evening from Blue Seahorse. Look forward to talking to you next week.